So, right about time, 15 minutes for questions. There's got to be some.
I have a qualification, if not a question. On the non-Aristotelian logic section,
Yeah.
you're replacing either or for both and I think that it's both and also neither nor. At least in the Upanishad tradition has, the neti, 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 not this, not that, not that. And Zen tradition is notorious for its no mind and no reality, emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, and I don't think you're wrong, I just think that there should be both and, but also neither nor. Like it's all of this and also none of this.
Yeah, I might have been I might have thrown the baby out with the bathwater with denying either or. It's much more encompassing, and you can't exclude either of them. Yes.
But here's something I ponder. Various kinds of mystical experiences, whether on entheogens or after, 3-month retreats, 3-year retreats, whatever, have a quality to them of intensity that seem to answer to, say, Einstein. Einstein says, when you get a formula that seems to be almost all-inclusive, maybe all-inclusive, and it's more simple and it's more elegant, it's going to be truer than the outmoded Newtonian version or whatever. So you get one of those mystical experiences, and there's a path that says, your Lama validates it, or, you're not in a kind of lineage, but you think, now I know. The truth is, what you know is you've had a mystical experience. That we just seem to be confined to experiencing, and yet many of the paths try to allow you to feel you can reach the truth. And I'm not sure we can't, but I know that what I've had is experience. And it may seem like, Einstein discovering the, single unitary field theory, but, oh yeah, this is it. Mind is reality, or, non-divisive consciousness has reached the truth.
That's interesting. I really wish I could have brought my whole library with me, because there's a great quote by Houston Smith, which I wish I could recite verbatim, but I can't. And what he says is that mystical experiences can abort the religious life as much as they can help it, or something to that effect. And what he's getting at is the idea that mystical experiences aren't the end point of a religious life. They're a point along the way. So when people confuse this, they get wrapped up in the experience itself rather than in the ability to integrate that experience into their life as a growth point or a marker along the road.
Yeah, you can integrate it, and you can take a glimpse, and you can stabilize it into a view. I do think you're left with the question of a view of the wise.
What? Could you say that again?
Let's say in Dzogchen, in Tibetan Buddhism, all right, you've had a glimpse. Now, what's your practice that stabilizes that into an ongoing view, so you're always resting in panoramic awareness, even when you're conducting your ongoing daily life, brushing your teeth, brushing your kids' teeth, whatever. You've stabilized it into a view, but you've had a view of what? A view of encompassing experiencing, or have you had a view of the thing itself? That's what I'm just saying. You're left with perhaps the conviction that you as a mystic have been intimate with God, with the universe, but maybe you've only been intimate with marvelous panoramic experience.
So you're in a way you're questioning the epistemological validity of the experience itself. Exactly how far does it take us?
Right.
That's a huge question. I don't know if I can get into all that at the moment. But I think if we take a pragmatic approach to that question, we can bracket the question of veracity and instead address the question of practicality. And so what James says specifically in religion and neurology is that you don't judge an experience based on where it comes from or what it does, where it comes from or what it says, but you judge it by what it does. How does it impact the person's life? So ultimately, I think a question like that defies any definitive answer one way or the other. So the individual is left to their own, what James called the will to believe in this case. And I think if we pragmatically evaluate those experiences based on their subsequent influence on life, then the question of metaphysical truth, did you or did you not have an experience with God, is left to the individual. Is that fair? Yes?
I play jazz piano, so I improvise quite regularly with other people. And the experience of losing yourself in what you're doing, but being very acutely aware is what I recognise. But I'm just wondering whether I would equate that with any kind of religious parallel. In fact, it's not ecstatic in a way we might expect at all. It's just doing stuff. Afterwards, there can be a sense of achievement, I suppose. But in the doing, there's just if there was any reflection on it being enjoyable at the time, I think you start missing notes. So I just wonder whether these parallels of losing yourself in sort of egoism or whatever is religious. But you can draw down, it's like all these other things are sort of pointing towards that sort of apparent darkness of religious experience. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe religious experience is just an example of this thing that we do quite regularly, whether we just finish or whatever we're doing, we lose ourselves.
I think the latter is closer to the truth. Part of it depends on the way you define religious, but the point of my paper was to point out that they lie on a continuum, so that there is no strict cutoff point between the religious and the secular experiences. And the aesthetic experience I found was a great example of the way in which you can see that the elaboration or the exaggeration of things that are pretty normal on a day-to-day basis, playing an instrument, can also be the same things are at work during a mystical experience. Is that?
Yeah, no, I'm just still worrying about which way around it is, because I can see these loss of ego states as being examples or something religious. Like, I wonder if people mistake so-called religious experience for what is quite a normal thing. So I think you're right about the scale, basically.
Could it depend on your predisposition? If you're in a state of being that presents itself as a religious experience, I'm also a musician, and I find that ecstatic state quite often. And I'm a classical musician, so I don't have a lot of improvisation, but I still get taken to that place. So could that be part of where that nebulous zone is it really religious or spiritual, or is it just a matter of practice at a heightened level?
That might just be a matter of the way that you describe it. So if you choose to use religious terms, it takes a religious tone and tinge to it. But if you describe it in more maybe stoic or technical terms, time dilation and ego dissolution, like I did, then it takes a more different, almost verging on scientific description. So the expression of the content definitely influences where you fall on whether it's religious or not. Yes?
Well, my question might pick up a little bit off that, just a bit of a problematizing question. I'm just wondering, you said at the beginning that each figure is a part of a historical context.
Yes.
I'm just wondering at what point in the experience of these individuals in the mystical experiences that you're separating their context from their consciousness. And basically what are you kind of separating out as this absolute that everybody has access to?
I'm going to fall back on William James. And William James says that the underlying unity beneath these variety can be boiled down to 4 points. 1, transience. 2, passivity. 3, noetic quality. And 4, ineffability. And then furthermore, he says that pragmatically these experiences tend to push individuals towards monism and optimism. And so I would say that those qualities are probably the core of the mystical experience, and that's what gets interpreted and expressed in different ways.
Well, just one slight addition then, could it be considered problematic that James' own definition of religion is fairly Protestant, himself coming out of a Protestant background, and wanting to rely heavily on individual experience, separated, say, from its cultural context, and he wants that
Well, right, you know,
experience in almost a bit of a Protestant understanding of, I have an experience, therefore I'm saved, or I'm at one with something, which itself is kind of a post-Reformation understanding.
I see what you're saying. But James does say that he wants to do a psychological analysis of religion, and to do that you have to focus on a individual. So he focuses on what he calls the eccentrics. That's not to say that that's the whole picture or that's comprehensive. There's certainly sociological perspectives and cultural perspectives that can be layered upon that one. So he's deliberately saying, yeah, look, I do have a bias, and here's why. It's because I want to do a psychological analysis. Pretty. Is that helpful? Question?
It's sort of broken out of these others. I was fascinated by the first quote that you have on the back, about that sense of all high religions always go back to private, lonely, personal illumination, revelation, ecstasy of some acutely sensitive prophet or seer, and it certainly brings out that notion of the individual, and yet, I mean, to what extent within these particular religions, is in some sense channeling that originary person or that originary experience critical as a means to achieving this kind of consciousness? I mean, is it? Are you suggesting that even according to James, that once the student of this can see the factors of common factors in the different traditions, that they can simply bypass that and then move sort of directly into it, or is there a sense that they need to stay within their tradition and mine it and to get where they're trying to go, or where their founder is trying to go?
Okay. I'm going to try and answer that question. I might be verging on something else here. But the neurologist Andrew Newberg believes that the practices of religion, their rituals and their metaphors, are tools that have been developed, advertently or inadvertently, to bring the audience to a state of mind that's similar to what the mystics may have achieved at the beginning. So he shows neurologically that rituals, when done right, actually start to break down the barriers of the normal consciousness, start to put you in a different state of mind. And what I think that these experiences are useful as maybe as fuel to push the individual, fuel for the fire, to help them express their religions, but I don't think they're a replacement for the religious context out of which they grew out of. Was that even close?
I mean, I've just been doing some reading in Teresa Avila, and I'm sort of playing around myself with the question of, if you take her experiences and you fit them into, say, a Jamesian pattern, or the pattern that you set up, I think, very, very nicely, neatly on the first page, to what extent, if you do that, are you losing a significant portion of what you think she's doing? I mean, just that sense of the encounter with the risen Jesus, for instance. I mean, if you say, well, okay, that's just a step towards something else, are you, by the time you get through doing that, have you pretty much homogenized what she's doing, I think she's doing?
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out that technically I'm over time. Anyone that wants to stay, is more than welcome to. I will stay, but if you want to go and grab lunch, by all means, I'm not going to stop you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.